Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And today we're going to talk about D&D adventure paths, pros and cons, should you be using them in your game. I want to start this video by thanking our sponsor, Frog God Games. Frog God Games right now currently has a mega adventure path going on in Kickstarter, City of Brass. Down in the description below, you can find a link to that, as well as Frog God Games. You know, if you're catching this video after the Kickstarter has ended, as of this point, as of us filming it, it is nearly kicked. It is a huge, whopping adventure that spans planes. It takes you from level 1 to level 20. You're going to be facing off versus a insidious cult. Will you join them? Will you take them down? Go check out that Kickstarter and let us know what you think.
As we said, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of adventure paths. There's a lot to be said for, getting and using prepared material, and there's a lot of people who are very much against it. So where should we start first?
Well, there's also the middle ground as well.
Well,
the people that get it and don't use it as intended.
Well, that's something that we'll talk about. So, do we want to look at the pros or the cons first?
Let's look at the pros, right? Because there's many pros and there's also a few cons. But we'll start dissecting the pros.
All right. Well, the first thing is it's material that is professionally written. And in the case of this one, it's taking you from level 1 to 20. So like, you can go get this, and then boom, you've got an entire campaign that's ready to go.
Now I know, I feel like Paizo really put things on the map when it came to adventure paths, and they put out quite a few, really well written, well done. I only hear good things about them, and some people really love them. And like you said, professionally written, and most of the time they are actually from level 1 to level 20 to be considered an adventure path.
Right. It's also got professionally done art that you as a GM can share with your players. So not only can you gain inspiration, but when you physically show, oh, this is what you're seeing, this is the monster that's in front of you, you're like, they don't need to envision it, you can just show them.
Yeah, it's hugely impactful. It's one thing to try and describe something, and as GMs, we're going to be at all different levels when it comes to our description and stuff, but being like, you see this, like, that leaves no doubt. Someone has put a lot of work, effort, and probably money into making these awesome images, so they're really going to make things pop.
Now, it is prepared material, so you don't have to worry about that, pesky problem of, oh, well, what are the players going to do tonight? You already know.
Then there is pre-generated NPCs, right? Generally these things are going to have a ton of them that you're going to be able to take them and use them and flesh them out. Or even if you're not using the product as intended and doing the adventure path, you can rip them right out and drop them right into your own adventures.
Having prepared NPCs where you know what kind of goals they have, what things that they're looking for, it makes it so much easier as a GM to be like, oh, I don't have to come up with a name for this guy. Great. Oh, I don't have to come up with a name for this tavern and what it's described or what they're famous for. The information is there for you to just use. And as a GM, that just makes things that much easier for you.
I also feel, when you create a mega adventure like this, it's nearly impossible as a writer or a publisher not to include new monsters, new magic items, new spells, and other things that kind of just speak to the flavor of this adventure arc. I think it would be a super rare thing to find one of these adventure paths that didn't contain some of those elements.
And those are things that, as you said, suppose you're not interested in running the material as is, you want to go with that middle ground. These are like the nuggets, the gold that you can just, strip away and use in your game as you see fit. Oh, well, I got this $50 book because I wanted the monsters and the magic items, and that's cool with me, and I do it for just about all the stuff that I see. So I totally right in that middle ground.
You're going to get loads of professionally drawn maps by cartographers, which is huge. Like, whether you're just using them for the adventure path itself, which is kind of cool, you have it there, you don't have to figure things out. They're usually done artistically, they look beautiful. Or if you're just pulling them out because you need a map for the adventure you're running tonight, it is definitely a plus. I know Sly Flourish talks about this a lot of times, like, why spend hours drawing a map when you can just go online and find one, right? And in this case, if you have these products, you can just, pull the maps out and use them. Now, if you really enjoy making maps, this may not be a pro for you. You might want to take the time to do it, but it's nice to have the option.
I know I enjoy, looking at the maps inside these adventure paths, and typically you get a wide variety. And if you're going to be going over the course of 20 levels, I can't imagine that you're not going to have the sprawling, 2 to 3 rooms to the mega. This is going to be a couple of sessions inside this dungeon, and those are the things that just are really great to me.
Now, Session Zeros, we're a big fan of them for your games. We feel like they make your games better. So if you know what your campaign is going to be from level 1 all the way up to level 20, it's really takes some of the weight off of the players and the GM when doing your Session Zero, because why would you make characters that are not going to be invested in this story for the whole 20 levels? So we can nip that right in the bud. We know where things are going and what it's about. So let's get the players to buy into this in Session Zero, connect them all up, have great backstories that are going to go with what's going on, and it's going to, in my opinion, enrich the entire experience.
When you have that core premise and everybody has totally signed on, and you have that Session Zero, hey guys, I'm going to run the City of Brass. It's a 20th level, campaign. Start from 1, go to 20. This is the kind of setting that you guys have to deal with, that you're going to be playing in. And when they don't have any way of fighting that, it's going to make for much more enjoyable gameplay throughout the whole thing, and that means everybody's going to have a better time.
Now, the other thing that we've kind of been mentioning, and this is our last pro, and it's also kind of a pro tip when it comes to GMing, and we've been mentioning it throughout this video so far, and that is ripping these suckers apart and having the components to create your own stuff with, to use in your homebrew. To, hey, I don't have any ideas for tonight's adventure, but you know what? The City of Brass has got like 3 books to it. Several of them are, individual adventures that kind of like string together. So you could just pull the one out that you wanted to use and use that. Or you might just use the maps, or you might use the monsters for inspiration. Or you might be like, oh, this big bad is the guy I want to use, but I'm not really interested in this other stuff. Or maybe you only want to use the Colt. You're going to have options.
And that's going to make, that much easier when you need something. Boom, pull out that adventure that's already set and done, and throw it into your world. Pick up your players and have them fall into the City of Brass, and now they need to find a way out. But in order to do so, they need to do this small section of the game.
Now, let's go into the dark side of running adventure paths for D&D. So we do have a couple cons.
All right, now this is set as an adventure path, levels 1 through 20. As we've said repeatedly, once you decide I'm running this, you are locked in. You are, okay, I'm running this setting, I'm running this adventure, and it could get bothersome if for some reason you as a player, you as a GM, are no longer interested, or things take a wonky turn. So that is certainly a con of buying into something that's that large of a set of material.
Yeah, this is a sandbox style campaign setting, and many of them are. But that being said, even sandboxes have defined borders, right? And anyone who's done a bit of GMing, or maybe even from the player side, that there's times when your players just want to break out the side of that sandbox and go in a direction you never even saw. And that can throw a monkey wrench in the works if you're running this set campaign.
And, whenever you're looking at, prepared material, whenever you're looking at something that's completely published and anyone can go buy it, your players could go buy the material. They could pick up the book and be like, all right, what is this guy's weakness? What is the trick, the puzzle that I need to solve, because I can't figure this out. And it's going to ruin some of the mystery, some of the magic, and kind of lessen the effect for all involved.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, what a-hole player would do that? But we've literally have gotten those questions, comments, what do I do? GM 911s, I'm running this thing, my player has bought it and is reading ahead of it.
How do I stop my players from reading the module that I'm running? Like, it
happens. So now here's one of the things you can do as a GM if you feel like this is going to be an issue or a problem, and you can't just have a rational adult conversation with your players. You can do it covertly and not tell them what you're actually running. You can just give them the themes and flavors, and some of the premise without saying, "This is what I got. This is what we're playing. This is what I'm running," and you can try and do it that way. It may affect how the buy-in works for when you do that session 0. But that is always an option, and each of them have their own pitfalls and dangers to it.
You also have the ability to alter on the fly if you suspect someone is doing this, and that's possible. It's going to lead to its own problems when somebody tries to call you on it. So just tread lightly.
This is something we've kind of talked about is, it is harder to come off the main story if you like to be an improv GM sometimes, if your players like to go all over the place and you're trying to get them back on task. These can be difficulties that come up. Probably a minor thing.
Along the same lines, when you're running prepared material, it's there's nothing that's going to be in the material about character-driven stories unless it comes with pre-gens and you're running those characters specifically. So you will have to, as a GM, either completely ignore that aspect as many like Adventure League and that kind of style of game, or you are going to have to prepare that material and add that in as extra content.
Then obviously, you're using prepared material. You have to read it all and know the material well enough to run it. So for some GMs that maybe if you're more on the fly or improv style DM, this is going to actually create more work for you than you're normally used to. So that is definitely a factor. And then let's get into the miscellaneous kind of area, right? And that is running a pre-made adventure, in this case, adventure path, how to make it better. So we can actually address some of the cons in this section of the video. And that is essentially where you do read the whole thing. You tailor it to your adventures. You're writing notes. You're highlighting stuff. You take information from session 0 where maybe you didn't say this is a specific adventure we're doing, but you just give them kind of an overlay of what they can expect. And you begin inserting that stuff, like the backstory information you were talking about, into the adventure.
Yeah. If players are giving you goals, what their characters want to do, short-term, long-term, these are things that you can tie into your game. You can have character discovery, you can have character growth, and these things might change just like they do in real life. But by incorporating them into prepared material, this now becomes more a hybrid of prepared material and your own homebrew, and it's going to be that much more enjoyable for your group.
Yeah, to piggyback off of two things Ted said. One is it's going to be more enjoyable and a lot more work, right? Combined together is one thing, right? And that's true, but it could also create a really rewarding experience for the table as a whole. Now, the other thing is you talked about homebrew, right? That's another place where you can tailor it. Like maybe they're mentioning specific places and specific NPCs. Well, then you port those things into your world, or you rename them after things in your world. So then, like you said, you get this hybrid of prepared and homebrew, and it creates this rewarding experience. But not only that too, like your players may go back later or even have read before these adventures, and they can't distinguish it from what you've done because you've made it your own, and you've made it exciting. And like maybe they might think they know, but then you do something and like, well, that's not in there, must not be that, So you have a lot of fun with it. I think there's a lot of benefits to using a pre-made adventure path. There's a lot of rewards, but there's also a lot of work that goes into it. So it all ultimately depends on what your play style is as a GM and your group in particular. But the question is, guys, are you using D&D Adventure Pass in your game? We got a place where we can talk about and discuss it. That is down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
After you do that, don't forget to hit the description and that link to Kickstarter or Frog God Games.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.